And it looks like we are live. Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to another Godzilla pandemic live watch-along series. I don't know how else to really call it what it is, but yeah, today we are going to be doing the third film in the series, King Kong vs. Godzilla. Now, another clarification, guys. This is going to be the Japanese version of the film, not the re-edited American version. So if you have your DVD or Blu-ray of the Universal American version, then I apologize because I cannot watch that version. But anyway, yeah, we're just going to jump right into... Well, okay, not right away because I have to do a little housewarming. Just going to give everyone some time to come in. Welcome Spiders Prime and Gzilla 100. Glad you could join us. Just waiting for more people to come in. And while I do that, I want to mention that the Godzilla series and the Marvel Cinematic Universe are going to be... Let me adjust this. They're going to be the two series of movies that I'll be doing live watch-alongs during this pandemic, not through Patreon. This is available to everyone. If you want to help support the channel and see exclusive live watch-alongs, then you could go to patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson, and for only $1 a month, you get exclusive watch-alongs for you guys. I want to try to get a certain amount of people to pledge before I actually start doing the live watch-alongs because I don't have that many pledges at the moment. If you cannot support the channel financially, then that's totally fine. Your subscriptions are more than enough. Your support is greatly appreciated no matter which way you decide to support the channel. And again, before we get into the movie itself, Justin Toner got into the chat. Welcome. And he is set to go. He's got it down. He has that Criterion box set. You can watch the Japanese version of this. James Bond 007 just entered the room. Welcome. Funny enough, he's here because there are two actresses in this movie who would eventually be in the Sean Connery Bond film, You Only Live Twice. We'll get to that. We'll get to those two actresses when we get to them. But first, one more thing before we actually start the movie. This Saturday... the Los Angeles Online Film Critics... I'm sorry. I totally screwed that up. We are no longer the Los Angeles Online Film Critics Society. We are the Hollywood Critics Association. But we are having our movies and TV Trivia-thon this Saturday, May 16th, on the HCA YouTube channel and Twitch channel. It'll be raising money for coronavirus support. Or relief, I'm sorry. Yeah. Just want to make sure I get that all down there. It's going to be a fun night of trivia contests. There's going to be prizes, special guests. And just yesterday, our hosts for the show were actually introduced. So I'm going to pull up the hosts right now because I want to recognize these awesome people. So the hosts for the HCA Movie and TV Trivia-thon are... Hang on, I just want to make sure I get everyone up. We have Jazz Tankei from Variety, Rama Tampulon. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your last name, buddy. But he's from the YouTube channel Rama's Screens. Lauren Huff from Entertainment Weekly. Scott Menzel from We Live Entertainment, who also is the founder of the Hollywood Critics Association. Without Scott, I would not be in this group at all. Simon Thompson from Forbes, IGN, E! And Meet the Movie Press. Morgan Rojas from CinemaC. Jamie Philbrick from M-Time, and Alicia Malone, who you may have seen on Turner Classic Movies. They are going to be the hosts for that show, and again, it's going to be a fun night. Come on down, support the show in any way you can. If you want to play trivia, you can absolutely do that as well. Just come on down. Again, it's going to be a lot of fun. And once again, that is the Hollywood Critics Association Movie TV Triviathon. It will be going up. It will be starting Saturday, May 16th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Hollywood Critics Association YouTube channel and Twitch channel. So that takes care of the housekeeping. And without further ado, let's just jump into the movie. With the Criterion release, there is no... With the Japanese version that's been released on the Criterion set, there is no Criterion logo, there's no Janus Films logo, so it just goes straight into the Toho 30th Anniversary logo, because King Kong vs. Godzilla came out in 1962, the 30th anniversary of the studio's existence. So this was a big deal for the studio, even though, as I mentioned in my Sanjuro review, Sanjuro became Toho's highest-grossing movie of that year, not King Kong vs. Godzilla. But that's enough of that. We'll get into more random trivia about this movie, random facts, and just hang out with you guys. We got a lot more people in the chat coming up, and without further ado, let's just start the movie now. Toho 30th Anniversary film. The biggest crime that the US version ever made to this movie was to pretty much get rid of all of, well, not all, but most of Ifukube's score. I'm happy this theme managed to stay in, but still, just a big crime. Spilled water right there. When I found out that the first time I found out that there was a completely different score for the Japanese version of this film, hold on one second. Akiko Wakabayashi, that's the actress that you guys were talking about in the chat as the princess who gets possessed by the alien in Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. That is the actress. But anyway, when I first discovered that there was a completely different score for the Japanese version of this film, I took my Blu-ray copy, or my old DVD copy of the movie, not even Blu-ray, and just tried to mute as much of the movie as possible and just play the Ifukube score, and it just sounded a lot better. Yeah, here's the biggest change between the U.S. and the U.S. and American versions. Spoken like a true dumb American. The Japanese version, the U.S. version, and kind of the main reason why the Japanese version was so altered when it came to the U.S. Because the main theme that Honda wanted to try to get across with this movie is that this was supposed to be a satire of the Japanese advertising agency at the time. Reason is because, because it's satirical. This movie definitely has a strong tongue-in-cheek sense of humor to it. Anyway, the what was going on in Japan at the time was that advertising agencies would pull off these just ridiculous stunts and try to outdo one another, and so the monsters pretty much represents the big ridiculous stunts that these advertising agencies would try to do. King Kong is just representative of that completely, and Godzilla is pretty much a rival ad agency, and that's clearly something that American audiences can't relate to. Not that we're dumb, it's just I'm pretty sure that wasn't going on as frequently as in Japan as it was back then. There's the Seahawk. That's just a random submarine, or actually, there's one good thing that the American re-edit did. Behind iceberg, straight ahead. The fact that the American version redubbed all of these American actors to make them sound less goofy is a blessing. And I don't know if it's because all of them are terrible actors, or there's something with Japanese directors where they can't really direct English-speaking actors all that well. Okay, Razor Bike, welcome to the stream. You are running behind. I will tell you we are at the 5-minute mark. 5 minutes and 17 seconds precisely. Yeah, when I reviewed this Blu-ray set, I talked about how this version of King Kong vs. Godzilla was the 2014 restoration of the movie. Yeah, Justin Toner, you're about a minute behind me. I'm at the 6-minute mark. Joey's Movie Blog, welcome to the stream. No, I'm not purposely growing out a quarantine beard. It's because we're getting some work done on the showers, so I just haven't been able to have the time to shave. And this has been going on for a week. Once that's all done, I will be shaving this beard off because I am not a beard guy. Yes, Spiders Prime. Those two actors would, the following year, appear in Atragon together. And Razor Bike, yeah. I mean, I think there's a... I haven't seen that movie in its entirety since I saw the Riff Tracks live version of it in 2014. But we'll get to that movie eventually. I might even try to bring on some special guests, but we'll see. Can't make any promises. You know, and what makes me laugh in the American version is the main character laughs at the idea that there could be a giant monster. And I'm just like, have you seen the monsters exist. Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, Anguirus. Like, Rodan and Mothra are obviously canon within the Godzilla Showa era, and I think it's debatable about some of the other movies, whether they're actually canon or not. But having the actual line be evil, mammoth evil spirit, that kind of makes a little more sense, but not that much. Ooh, Lord, yeah, the quality just dropped right here. Like, this is the quality of that original Toho DVD. It looks terrible. And then it transitions to the more revised Blu-ray transfer that they did in 2014. Really wish they could have used the 2016 4K transfer, because that one looks gorgeous. There's something about that actress that kind of reminds me of Natalie Wood. And I don't know if it's because I've seen a lot of stuff with her recently, like that HBO documentary or Splendor in the Grass, which I actually want to do a review of. But, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on certain scenes where she kind of reminds me of Natalie Wood in terms of her look. Daquan Tate, I'm doing awesome. Welcome to the stream. Oh, I love this. So did he just have string up there, like just planted there so he could just lean back peacefully, and just string hanging up from the top so he could swing like Tarzan? No, I don't really listen to that much J-pop or J-rock music. Man, that looks good. That's kind of a petty thing to have beef with. Insert the CSI Miami theme, and we are good. It always baffled me how they just didn't see that iceberg. Iceberg? I actually did a video of this last year when King of the Monsters was coming out, but my favorite Godzilla fight is the first time Godzilla and King Ghidorah fight each other in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Yeah, how could they have missed the iceberg? I mean, just imagine if that Seahawk crew was ship manning the Titanic. Because at least with the Titanic, they tried to get out of the way. They saw that iceberg. It's just they were too late. They didn't just ram right into it. Oh, least favorite fight? The when Godzilla and King Ghidorah fight each other in Planet Eater. That's not even a fight. It's no bigger news story than ours. I don't want to compare. No, I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, there's so much great music that just got lost to American audiences. That's a damn shame. I mean, some of these English speaking actors aren't that bad. I mean, some of them are okay, but the captain is just terrible, especially this part. Where he just goes, "What?" This scene, this entire Seahawk sinking scene, it just made me realize, yeah, I never need to go in a submarine in my life. They seem like they're smiling, and then they seem wildly unimpressed that they're at this island. Okay, if we're switching over to King Kong for a second, one of the things a lot of people have issues with when it comes to the original King Kong is how offensive it is at times. Like, it is not like. I'm not going to deny that that movie can be pretty racist at points. But at the same time, like, it was 1933, so it was just kind of the time that movie came out. Um, and at the very least, they're not like painting Japanese actors in blackface, which, ooh, Lord, this does not hold up well. I love those guys. I love how the natives just come in and take our main characters away, and then the guys who drop them off on the little raft are just like, well, we're heading back. Hope those guys are okay. Yeah, that's some obvious matte paint. Some of the natives aren't even real. Like, with that shot right there, there wasn't even like with that shot there. There were some natives that were clearly painted in. Full disclosure, sometimes whenever I hear like the music that plays on Faroe Island, uh, sometimes it reminds me of the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland, which I'd love to go back to someday. Oh, we'll get to Kong's design later on. Yeah, this clearly does not hold up well in terms of being culturally appropriate. Well, yeah, all this stuff is a set later on. It's massive, but that one shot there at the beginning, where it's clearly a matte painting. Wow. No wonder ratings are dropping because of you. Do these natives even know what's going on out in the world? Now, did this have to be some sort of popular song in Japan back in the day? Man, if only the peacemaking deals in the original King Kong had gone as smoothly as this. Oh no. Don't blame me if a cop sees you. Okay, so rather than taking both cigarettes, the mom just takes one of them. One other awkward thing when it comes to their translator. One awkward thing when it comes to the translator in the American version is that what was I gonna say? Oh, is that whenever he's speaking to the chief, it's the actor's native voice, but then it suddenly transitions into, like, for example, like this Maru Maru. It gives you permission to stay. Like, it just sounds completely different than he originally did. Yeah, I mean, clearly it was a rights issue that they didn't make another King Kong movie after King Kong Escapes. But there actually was an idea to make a sequel to this right away, just called Continuation King Kong versus Godzilla. But it's like it was suggested. Ooh, that roar is loud. And then nothing else came out after that. It's kind of a clever transition to have to go from Faroe Island and then Fumiko is watching some nature show. Yeah, this scene is entirely gone from the American version. Okay, there's a clear difference between a plane and a helicopter. And that's a helicopter. Not the best subtitle use right there. And I kind of expected better from Criterion. So again, back to Godzilla Raids again. How did the island that Godzilla was on, again, the island with mountains and a solid ground, shrink to an iceberg right there? Like, how did that work out? What's that, huh? There he is. Here's another. I hate to keep going back to the score, but here's another crazy thing about the score being absent from the American version is that American audiences would have to wait 2 more years to hear Godzilla's true theme. Because this is the first time we hear the official Godzilla theme, and American audiences have to wait until 1964 to hear it. You know, it was easier to just watch when I had the American version. It was easier to watch this scene over and over again while playing the original score because there's no score in the American version during this scene. It's just silence. I really, I really love this Godzilla design. Like, I know it's a little more like sillier looking than the last two. Well, maybe Godzilla Raids Again is a little more of a silly design, but there's just something about the look of this Godzilla that's just freaking cool. I hate this scene in the American version also, because here it's clear that they're just talking about how Godzilla could still be alive. Um, and whether he'll actually arrive in Tokyo. And then in the American version, it's just them talking about possibly using the atom bomb to destroy Godzilla. And I'm just like, no Japanese person ever has suggested to use nuclear weapons, let alone on their homeland to destroy a monster that was made out of radiation or mutated from radiation. It just really shows how how much they did not care about the like what Godzilla represented. Okay, there's a movie, and then Godzilla Yaki at the restaurant. Again, going back into the satire of this movie, which is one of the aspects why I find this movie, particularly this version, a lot clever than people give it credit for. Because when people say that King Kong vs. Godzilla is terrible or one of the worst Godzilla movies, it's like, I can get that at points. It's one of my favorites, but I feel like most of the time when people say that, they've seen the American version, which is terrible. Whereas this version really is, when you take into consideration what was going on at the time and what Honda's intent was, it's actually a pretty clever movie. And it's pretty funny also, especially Mr. Taco. Yeah, in the American version, they are not talking about the fact that Godzilla... How do we interview the evil spirit? Yeah, they're not talking about how Godzilla possibly escaped. No, they're not talking about how Godzilla escaped and how he could make his way here to Faroe Island in the American version. It's just the entire sequence of the sidekick character talking about how his corns hurt. Don't know where that came from. Oh, yeah, this movie, Razorback, this movie was intended to be a comedy, yeah? Like in the way you look at Wolf of Wall Street, and it's clear that that movie is a comedy, yeah? Like this movie was made with the intention of being funny. Case in point. That poor dude. Like, it's bad enough the lizard got thrown off a cliff. You have to go shoot it? One thing that I do like about this movie is how they kind of hype up Godzilla and Kong's returns, like right before you get to see them. Even though we know what Godzilla and Kong look like, Godzilla. It's been 7 years since Godzilla raids again, and 29 years since the original King Kong. So it's kind of cool that they kind of tease, like, the oncoming threat from both monsters. And then when they show them... I mean, when they show them with Godzilla, it's awesome. When they show it with Kong, we'll just let this play out. What is it? What hurts? The corns. I don't care about your corns. Until we finish our job, and then you and your corns can go home. The corns bit in the American version honestly does make me laugh intentionally. Because the American version, with all the scenes involving the UN, they tried to make that movie really serious. And it is the literal definition of two different movies going on at the same time. because the American version is trying to be very serious with what's going on, and then the Japanese footage is just like let me start that over. All the stuff in the UN is taken so seriously that it feels out of place compared to the original Japanese footage, which is mostly a comedy. Giant octopus. Why not? You know, for the longest time, I kept thinking the mother kept saying Skittle. Skittle? It's pretty cool that, like, they could have gone full rubber octopus. And some scenes they do, but they went out and, like, used a real octopus. And it just, you believe it. You really believe it. And, yeah, yes, Justin Toner, that was a real octopus they used. And it was actually what Gore Verbinski told the visual effects team for the second Pirates movie to study when animating the Kraken. That's a clever joke. That's a clever joke because in Japan, octopus is taco. And so you have the other character that goes, Mr. Taco's here? That's a clever joke. That only would work in the Japanese version, not so much in the American version. So, man, look at that stop motion. Like you get those rubber tentacles, and then you get that stop motion tentacle. Like, all three forms of special effects are used, well, at the time, for the octopus. You got rubber tentacles, you got a stop motion tentacle, and you've got the real deal. Yeah, Eiji Tsuburaya did eat one of the octopuses once it was done. I think they used 4 octopi, and 3 of them were released, and one of them became dinner. I'd say Mothra versus Godzilla, Ghidorah, and Astro Monster just have a more lighthearted tone. They're not supposed to be those movies really aren't comedies in the way that this movie is. Oh, that lizard becomes a skull crawler. Right, now it's time for the big reveal of Kong. 29 years since the very first movie, Kong's first movie in color, and that's the suit that they get. Like, compared to Godzilla's awesome redesign, this Kong suit just does not... Wow, they dropped the ball with the suit right here. I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to play into the fact that this movie is mostly a comedy, but that suit, man. Oh, but the puppet they have of Kong's head is worse. Yeah, there's the rubber octopus again. Yeah, there's that puppet head. I wonder if, like, the shot with the puppet and the octopus, was that the real octopus, or did they just cover that fake octopus with a lot of stuff? Okay, there's another special effect that doesn't quite hold up. When Kong's throwing the rocks, and that's a clear rear projection, like, you could see the shadow of the rock which does not really work all that well. I mean, not only does the Kong suit look kind of bizarre, but I think they're different arms because sometimes you'll notice that the arms aren't like longer than usual and not made for gripping, and the arms that are shorter, there are sometimes where the arms look shorter, but they're clearly made to grip stuff. I'll tell you what, I've had enough of drink. Ah, screw you all. The best thing about that Kong puppet is the gifts that come out of this movie where Kong is drinking the red berry juice. And it's clearly set up to be a gif where Kong is drunk off his ass. I mean, that's apparently what that stuff is to him. Beer. Oh, that puppet is like, in comparison, the suit doesn't look that bad. The puppet's the one that's truly atrocious, but the no gas bombs required. This is one of the few moments in the American version where they actually keep the Fukube score, and it's clear. Like when you watch the American version, it's clear what's the stock music and what's the original music. Although this scene goes on for a long time. Kong is a lightweight. Yeah, I can relate to Kong in that sense because it takes me one glass of wine to get knocked out. Yeah, it was not. I mean, it's like with a glass of wine, I know where I'm going. Like I can speak perfectly clear sentences, and I can know my surroundings, but I just can't walk straight. Like I'll tip over, and I had to learn that the hard way in college. Yeah, this is going on for a long ass time. We kind of need to wrap it up. It's like Kong's already asleep. In the Razorback, in the American version, the stock music is music from Wolfman and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it's only in this scene and when they try to put Kong to sleep in Tokyo where they use the original score. Everything else in that American version is stock music. there is something incredibly silly about drunk ass Kong. Yeah, there's something incredibly silly about Kong being dragged by a raft. Yeah, the American version is just not worth watching. This Japanese version is the only one you need to watch. I mean, I will say one other good thing about the American version, aside from the better redubbing of the Seahawk crew, is that there are certain shots in the Japanese version that go on a little too long, that are trimmed slightly better, or they're paced better in the American version, so they don't feel like they drag out as long. But still, it's not really that much of an improvement. You know, it's funny. Later on, like those are tiny TNT packs, but they leave such a huge explosion later on. I'll pulverize Godzilla because I use Pacific drugs. Um, that's yeah. Again, this movie is clear satire, but like even though the monsters are supposed to represent like, especially Kong, supposed to represent the outrageous things that Japanese advertising agencies would do back in the day, it really is a coincidence that Godzilla and King Kong fight each other. Like in the American version, they constantly say that Godzilla and Kong were mortal enemies and were meant to meet up again. But in this movie, it's just a coincidence. In this version, it's just a coincidence that they fight. Uh, yeah, the American. Yeah, Justin Toner put it best. The American version has tighter pace in certain spots. There was another question that came up. Someone brought up. Where is it? Oh, DeQuan Tate says, have you seen the Godzilla animated series based off the 1998 movie? I've seen a few episodes of it, and I dig it. Still bugs me that the monster's called Godzilla when it's clearly not, but it's definitely more of a Godzilla thing than the actual movie was. Smuggling. Well, lucky him. Yeah, when you're a kid and you hear about Godzilla, you're just like, uh, let's see Godzilla. But then when you're an adult, you're like, how about we not do that? That's not her daughter. I'm very confused by that moment there. It's something I never really thought. It's only a model. Shh. I love that joke so much. So that line of dialogue there, where it's like they're not firing at Godzilla right now because of the civilians in the area. That's something that, like, why, like, the equivalent of the Japanese military is actually a defense force where they defend the citizens of Japan, and that's something that Shin Godzilla would make a giant plot point of. Wow, the self-defense force and the police are quick to get all those buses there. And Godzilla's like, considering that Godzilla's right next to the train, Godzilla's not too far from just stomping on everyone. Yeah, and unlike the 1954 movie where Godzilla clearly killed people, everyone got out of that train. It's I don't even want to compare this to another versus movie, but it just reminds me of in Batman versus Superman when on the news they say, well, luckily in Metropolis everyone's gone home, so the entire downtown is just abandoned. God, that movie's terrible. It is kind of bizarre that we get the one time the Japanese version actually is available in the United States. It's not like it's a bonus feature because the American version is part of the actual set as like one of the legit movies, and the Japanese version is on the bonus disc. What would I do if Godzilla was real? I would move to whatever city he's not in. Like, I would go somewhere landlocked. Like, it'd probably be an excuse for me to move to Austin. Because Godzilla clearly comes out of the ocean, so I would just live somewhere landlocked. And again, probably Austin. Right, sorry folks. I apologize to no one for constantly eating Lucky Charms about this, because I'm hungry. I love the toy people on top of the ship. Yeah, it had to have been some sort of rights deal. Some of these miniatures are just cracking me up. Yeah, it had to be a rights deal that, because Universal has a good relationship with Criterion as well. So I would imagine Universal had a say in that. King Kong belongs to his sponsor. Okay, again, going back to how tiny those the TNT is on the raft. Like, compared to Kong, the TNT is small. And then look at this. Boom! It's a huge ass explosion. I mean, I guess they exploded all at once. There's really something about miniatures that's just so charming. This shot of Kong just running wildly on houses is moved to when he starts his rampage in Tokyo. Oh, absolutely. This movie's better than Batman versus Superman. Because I mean, both movies are attempting to be about something. This one, I think, actually hits its mark. Whereas Batman versus Superman, I don't. That movie. That movie just has such a stick up its ass that I don't even know what it's trying to be about. This is another scene that was cut out of the American version. Yeah, that's another weird thing about this piece of music here is that while American audiences wouldn't hear uh, the Godzilla theme until 2 years after this movie in 1964, the music used here wouldn't be heard by American audiences until Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, which was one of the movies that did not get released in U.S. theaters. I think it didn't get released in the United States until the Roland Emmerich movie came out. So that's 1998. It's interesting that Kong's fur is so red in this movie. That's another great GIF moment. I have played Peter Jackson's King Kong, on the original Xbox. It's one of the better movie-based games out there. But the 360 version's a lot better because it just looks better. Better graphics and all. So why did it just become night all of a sudden? And that's clearly unused footage from the train attack. Nakajima's a trooper when it came to these movies because he is standing right next to fire in a heavier suit than in the Raids Again, and he just sticks to it like Nakajima to Godzilla is what Kane Hodder is to Jason Voorhees. Like, he took a ton of abuse and committed to the role. And so begins a tradition of Godzilla falling into pits. Okay, so Godzilla fell into a pit, and they just blew up the hole with explosives and poison. No, I have not seen the remake of Mighty Joe Young. I love the original. Never saw the remake, though. But yeah, explosives and poison gas, not effective. He's fine. He's just irritated. Okay, that shot's clearly meant to be later in the movie because Kong just passed the power lines and some of them were destroyed. Battle of the Century. No, if you're talking about... no, never mind. You could leave together. That doesn't mean you have to stay in this apartment. I think I used that for my thumbnail in this watch along. Meanwhile, in another section of the power lines, you know, he's a terrible cameraman. Doesn't really, like, just moving the camera around everywhere. So if the berry juice is his alcohol, then electricity must be his cocaine. He could really take it. That puppet. Ooh, that puppet is rough. You know, that other door was just perfectly open. They didn't have it. They couldn't have had trouble getting in, and look what happened. Yeah, those cars in the lower part of the screen. Ugh, I cannot speak properly. Yeah, those cars were hauling ass to get out. Yeah, all those people are dead. Those people are totally dead. They just fell out of that. Fumiko should not go on trains at all. Like, she just has the worst luck with it. Kong really is horny a lot. That's one of the things I actually appreciated in Kong Skull Island was that that movie tried to stay as far away as it could from referencing a lot of the other past movies, especially the 1933 one. For example, like Kong does develop a soft spot for Brie Larson's character, but it's not in a very romantic type of way. I mean, the first time Brie Larson and Kong really like stare each other down eye to eye, it's just more. It's not really. He doesn't really care that much. And again, when Kong does start warming up to Brie Larson's character, it's not in a romantic, "I'm horny for you" kind of way, like every other interpretation of Kong. Watch where you're touching, Kong. Okay, coming up is one of my favorite over-the-top reactions um, in any Japanese film from Kenji Sahara. No, not this part. This shot. Just, it cracks me up. Like the first time, like that shot wasn't in the American version, so the first time I ever saw it, I I pissed myself with laughter, metaphorically speaking. Yeah, what's Kong doing there? Like scratching his nipple? Yeah, those missiles were clearly not there. Yeah, there's a conversation in the chat right now of how Honda really was a great director, and it's only a shame that he didn't get the recognition that he deserved until decades after his passing. Ooh, that puppet. And that dental work on that puppet. It's amazing how those tiny drums managed to deliver all, like the entire tribe performing back on Faroe Island. And once again, the dive building is not fully destroyed. He is half-assing those drums. How many of Honda? There's another conversation in the chat going on right now of how many of Honda's films are amongst your favorites in general. For me, it's only two: the original Godzilla and Mothra. But the sequence he did, the tunnel sequence that Honda did in Kurosawa's Dreams is really fantastic in its own right. Here, next up is a part of the movie where I started to really, like, realize that there was a different version of this movie out there. This piece of music that plays never appears in any other Godzilla movie or any other Toho science fiction movie that Ifukube scored. And I remember hearing this piece of music on a Best of Godzilla CD from 1954 to 1975, and going and thinking to myself, this music's not in King Kong versus Godzilla. Okay, they're animated soldiers on top of Kong, and the animation is just so poor on them. I think Rodan and War of the Gargantuas are... I think Criterion actually has those movies, because I know back in the Filmstruck days, Criterion... Yeah, Rodan and War of the Gargantuas were featured there. And War of the Gargantuas is actually on the Criterion channel, so hopefully those two get a Blu-ray release through Criterion. So, why exactly is Kenji Sahara going with them? Like, why is it Kenji Sahara's going along and not the comic relief character? The comic relief character that isn't Tako. I was lucky to pick up that classic media DVD of both movies when it came out, when it was affordable. Didn't think this movie could get any more goofy? Well, here's Kong being strapped to a bunch of balloons. That it... You know, the good thing about Godzilla vs. Kong, whenever that movie comes out, I know it's supposed to come out in November, but with the pandemic going on, who knows? Who knows when that movie's coming out? But it'll be nice to see Godzilla and Kong fight each other in probably a more serious movie, and to have their actual reason for fighting be more than a coincidence. Probably just a territorial fight. Those puppets. Now, which Joker quote are you talking about, Spider's Prime? Wow. Wow. All right, screw those random houses on Mount Fuji. Oh, he stole my balloons. There's about 10 minutes of this movie left, and 10 minutes of Godzilla and Kong just beating the crap out of each other. Yeah, there's something, like, the reason I wish that they used the 2016 4K transfer of this movie is because during the Mount Fuji fight especially, there's just this weird brown tint. I mean, it's better than that piss ugly yellow tint from the DVD, but I don't know. That would have been my reaction if YouTube was down all day. I'd start throwing and kicking rocks. That tint pops up later on. That Kong suit is just so ugly and absurd. Bam! That's one thing I liked in the American version is how, like, there are so many more sound effects in the American version, and when Kong smacks his head into the ground, you just hear this giant, and it just makes it feel like it hurts so much more. Whereas in this version, there's no sound effect when Kong hits his head. Okay, here comes that stop motion shot. Well, that other one, since the octopus was stop motion. I guess that was Tsuburaya's homage to the original King Kong, because King Kong was such an inspirational movie that, like, again, like, not only was Peter Jackson inspired, but so was Tsuburaya. This fight doesn't go on for as long as I thought it did. He'll be a half-baked gorilla. Lightning will make him stronger like Popeye's spinach. I don't know how the rest of it goes. But there he goes. I know there's one stunt where Kong throws Godzilla where Nakajima is actually inside the suit. It's coming up later on. Oh, this moment. I hope Adam Wingard references. I hope Adam Wingard makes Kong shove a tree in Godzilla's mouth. Like, it would be an on-the-nose reference, but if he did that, that would be amazing. And Nakajima was in the suit when Kong flips Godzilla. There are a lot of close-up shots here. Like, this section where Kong and Godzilla are pretty much hugging each other. I feel like there are too many cuts and too many close-up shots. It would, like... Godzilla versus Kong could be terrible by all means. I mean, like, honestly, I think the movie could go either way in terms of quality, but... admittedly, the fanboy in me just wants to see Godzilla and Kong have a more serious fight with more convincing special effects. And I'll be satisfied. I'll at least be satisfied with those scenes. Just hope the action scenes aren't close up like what Michael Dougherty did in King of the Monsters. There's that battle music again. This was another moment in the American version that didn't have any music playing, so it was easier to just sync up the Japanese soundtrack with this scene in the American version. And there goes another pagoda building. Yeah, between destroying pagoda buildings and Godzilla falling into holes, there's a lot of trends that happen throughout this series. And here's the moment where Godzilla wins. No. No, of course not. Like, I remember reading about that in there was a book about King Kong, and when they talked about King Kong versus Godzilla, they mentioned that the Japanese version ended with Godzilla winning. And then Kong wins. Actually, no, there's no... Oh, you're talking about All Monsters Attack. Okay. Because during the earthquake scene in the American version here, there's stock footage of the Mysterians that plays that makes the earthquake more big, ginormous. It's unnecessary. But anyway, yeah, for the longest time, like, everyone thought that the Japanese version ended differently, but no. No, that both movies end exactly the same with Kong winning. Well, no, actually, no. No, Kong did not win. According to Tomoyuki Tanaka, he retroactively changed the outcome of the fight to where both monsters basically draw at each other. There was an original press release from Toho saying that Kong won, but then Tanaka changed it to where both monsters basically, where the fight ended in a draw. There was no evidence at all that pointed to Godzilla winning. And now he's swimming back to Faroe Island, never to be seen again in this Godzilla series. It's crazy to think that, assuming everything turns out for the best, we're going to be seeing Godzilla and Kong fight each other again this year. That is absolutely bonkers. So yeah, that's King Kong versus Godzilla. Want to thank you guys for tuning in, watching. I hope you had fun. If you didn't watch the Japanese version alongside this watch along, then apologies. But the next movie will probably be a little easier to access, which will be Mothra versus Godzilla. That will be going up on Tuesday. I will, again, put up the link to when Mothra vs. Godzilla, my watch-along will be, probably around the same time, because doing these watch-alongs at night or in the late evening actually works out pretty well. And that's about it. Once again, I want to thank you guys for joining. If you want to see more exclusive watch-alongs, go over to patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson, and for $1 a month, you get to see exclusive watch-alongs because, again, with the Godzilla series and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm doing these watch-alongs because we are in the middle of a pandemic. But if you want to see exclusive content, you could go to patreon.com and support. If you can't financially support, then that's fine. Your subscriptions and you just sharing the channel and telling your friends about me is more than enough. And don't forget, this Saturday, the Hollywood Critics Association Movie and TV Trivia-thon. Saturday, March 16th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Hollywood Critics Association YouTube channel and Twitch channel. Our lovely hosts were announced just yesterday, and it's going to be a ton of fun with games, prizes, special guests. You'll want to join. Even if you don't like movie trivia, just come on down. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's for a good cause. So hope to see you guys there. And till next time, this is the Real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.